Now, I'm a big Spawn fan. I have been a big Spawn fan for a very long time. I used to draw Spawn logos on all of my folders. When I was in like middle school and then in like early high school, I did kind of separate away from the character where a lot of the lore and stuff I missed out on. And I've been going on a deep lore dive through Spawn for the last few weeks now. Now, this is Spawn versus Medieval Spawn. We've looked into their backgrounds, both individually in the past, and I'm very excited to dive in and get like the full-fledged proctology exam on their fight because I love a good mashup. By the way, this video is done by Dope Spill Comics. It's called Spawn versus Medieval Spawn.
Hey guys, welcome back. So now it's your boy Dope reaching out from the self-quarantine to where like for the past week I've been locked into MK11 playing Spawn, and I looked up like, man, I ain't posted a video in 4 days. And
By the way, I really, if there's one more game that I need for my original Xbox that I need to like buy, because I don't buy a ton of retro games, but every once in a while I'll see like a lot or something and I'll buy it. I pretty much have everything that I want, but one game that I'm missing in my collection is the Spawn game. I loved the Spawn game when I was a kid. I lost my copy throughout the years. I am eventually going to get another copy because it was one of the most fun video games from my childhood, and I would love to dive into that game again.
Man, like I've been glued to this game, like locked in, sending a number of these poor souls straight to Malbosia with little to no closure. But also while I was playing, I noticed there's a number of like Spawn Easter eggs, like throughout the different gear you can pick up and a number of the different skins, to where one of which is your medieval Spawn, who is Sir John of York. And so I just figured, why not?
By the way, the Mortal Kombat 11 medieval Spawn looks mid as hell, dude. That looks so mid compared to what the peak medieval Spawn looks like, and I will pull that up while I hit play on the video.
Talk about this guy because I don't think nobody else really has. And like prior to this point, we talked about Dark Ages Spawn from the 12th century, who I'm not gonna front is actually my favorite between the two, but even still, I get it, medieval Spawn.
He has a way more interesting story, but I think that medieval Spawn has a better look, dude. I talked about that when I was going into the deep dive of Dark Age Spawn, that I think, I mean, dude, just look at this. Look how, let's view image, bro. Look how sick this is, dude. Like, just look how sick medieval Spawn looks, dude. And again, I think that Dark Age Spawn looks really dope. Really, he's a cool looking character, but I just don't think that he holds a candle to the way medieval Spawn looks, bro. Oh my god, dude, this is just so peak, bro. This is so peak. I love this. It's so sick. And Dark Age Spawn just, he looks too much like, Judge Fear from Judge Dredd, to where I feel like it just doesn't hit as hard. But again, I think his story's incredibly interesting, and I wish they would have done more, because I think they ended his comic book run.
Spawn is the fan favorite, but Dark Ages Spawn is still better. But even still, I want people to have an idea of who medieval Spawn is. Alright, so let's break this down.
And I know I'm pausing again, and I think that this would have caused, healed this rift in the community. And by creating Dark Ages Spawn, they did put a rift in, like, the Spawn community, because a lot of people were like, why are you replacing medieval Spawn when he's already so cool? Like, we already have the cool medieval Spawn. Why do we need another? They should have just worked this guy's story into medieval Spawn's story, because there's already like a lot of questions behind medieval Spawn, and there's not a ton of information out there, so they could have just overlapped the two and made it the same thing.
But first, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch the spills every week, and don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squat up in the comments for the first hour.
By the way, guys, do the same thing for me. I want you to smash the like button as hard as you smash your girlfriend's pussy at night, or your boyfriend's butthole. I don't know. You guys do you, boo-boo. Also, make sure to hit a like, leave a comment how you think I'm the most crude, awful person on the internet. I don't care. I love you all, and I'm gonna keep making stuff for you guys till the end of time.
Alright, so let's talk medieval Spawn, who appeared before Dark Ages Spawn as far as publication order back in April of 1993, but as far as your linear timeline, medieval Spawn appeared in your 16th century, which is like 400 years after Dark Ages Spawn. But even with your medieval Spawn, who I feel like when he first appeared in your original series of Spawn, to where a few years later we would see him team up with Witchblade, but in his defense I do feel like his original creation and appearance back in Spawn issue number 9, that it was more so for the purpose of giving us a bit more of the backstory on Hell Spawns and telling us how often they were made, which was once or twice.
Bro, you're not going to tell me this isn't peak. You're not going to tell me that's not the most peak design ever.
Century, and not necessarily because
and I get that they're different time periods, and I get that there's a reason for having both. It's just, and I think that they just should have gone with maybe a different direction. I know that Medieval Spawn is kind of supposed to be more like closer to like Conan the Barbarian type look, but they should have called him like Barbarian Spawn, and I think that would have like kind of removed that divide. That I think that there is a conversation about these two, and I think the conversation would be vastly different if they would have just called him like Barbarian Spawn and went in a little bit different direction.
it took a long time to make a Hell Spawn, because once selected, they'd be back in the land of the living anywhere between 5 to 10 years. But because of the amount of power it took to put into one Hell Spawn, it would at least take Malbolgia another 50 years. And likely because of the soul selection process, or the requirements for the souls needed to put into a Hell Spawn, which could all around be like that 6,000 number, which is something that we got from Agent Twitch, who had followed up with a soul who had escaped from Al Simmons back when the Violator had ripped his heart out. Because when that happened, one of the souls had gotten away, and that one soul was like this kid named Christopher, but we had found out that that one soul was 1 out of 6,000 who were drawn into Spawn when he was originally given his power. And so now, because of the way that the Spawn narrative starts off, like from the first issue, with him just being on Earth 5 years after his death, with little to no memory, like at first he didn't even remember his wife, Wanda, who was the whole reason for him making the deal and coming back, but day one when he arrived, all he remembered was her face, and he really just had to rebuild his memories from there. But in the case of Medieval Spawn, he didn't really get the rich backstory treatment. But when we first got Medieval Spawn, like I said, his purpose was much more for the reasoning of explaining more things and taking a deeper dive into the mythology, which we were briefly introduced to in Spawn issue 9. But when we had first seen him, he knew that he was Sir John of York. He knew that he had made a deal with the Dark One, who we would know as Malbolgia, because he wanted to return again to see his sister, to whom he promised that he'd see that she'd get married before he died. But of course, when he came back, that was already a done deal, with him returning within that 5 to 10 year gap. But as far as our introduction to him, it came about when he had crossed paths with this woman who was in distress, and she had told him that her sister was taken by some ogre and dragged into a cave, so of course he had went there to help her out. But with doing so—
Whoa, we know what's going on in that game, bro. Not nice stuff, dude. Good thing Medieval Spawn was Sir John of Yorkenstein was going there to smash and steam some ogre butthole.
lo and behold, the woman who was in distress wasn't so much in distress, and as it turned out, she was Angela, a warrior who was sent from heaven with the mission of hunting down and—
Okay, I was wrong entirely. The ogre was not smashing any buttholes. It was all a ploy, and it got your boy King Jiffy Coats all lost. But goddamn those titties, though. I'm gonna be real with you. Those are some nice titties, and I love the artwork of these old Spawn comics. I think they're so incredible. But yeah, no, she's got a lot of things going. There's a part of me that kind of wants to root for her against Spawn.
killing Hell Spawn. And at the time, I gotta tell you, like, this was a great introduction for her. But for good old St. John of York, this first appearance was a RIP, open and shut. But even with this, like, the way he was taken out here, it doesn't discredit his skills as a warrior, like, not all the way, because the specific weapon he was killed with, he was caught off guard with, which at the time was just referred to as Angela's Lance, but as we were told, it had the ability to destroy a Hell Spawn at close range, which Angela only caught on Sir John after tricking him into a dark corner. And so for that reason, I'm not really gonna hold him to it. But with Medieval Spawn, even though he was killed in your 16th century, he was later brought back, like, much later on.
A typical Spawn trope. Yeah, kill a Spawn. Todd McFarlane says, wait. I was beating him one in the bathroom, and I just had a great idea. What if instead of him dying, he just doesn't, and we give a Spawn a new power?
Around your Spawn issue number 300, which was definitely around like one of your craziest, like, top 5 Al Simmons moments. Because around this time when Simmons had nearly used all of his necroplasm, which was really what that clock was for in Spawn issue 1, which would always go down anytime he used his powers, and not even like every time he used his powers, because some things wouldn't be as taxing, but for the most part when he did use them, that was the clock that was running out. But around this time, when he had tricked the Violator and Godsend into being in the same place at the same time, and mainly with Simmons knowing how badly
Bro, look at the Violator's drip in this this comic, bro. He went from Danny DeVito straight to fucking Marlon Brando. Damn, bro. Look what 300 issues will do for a motherfucker.
Violator wanted his symbiote suit, but with him using himself in the symbiote suit as bait, Simmons allowed himself to get captured just to bring the two of them together, which was really his plan to set off a number of things, which in addition to that set off some other things.
Bro, even the Violator got a matty thick fucking redesign here, bro. Look how fucking massive he is. He doesn't look like a twink demon anymore. He's like full-fledged Papa Bear plowing buttholes demon.
Takes us back to Medieval Spawn, but we'll get to that in just a minute. But essentially with Spawn putting together this whole plan to do this here, and also knowing that when he allowed himself to get caught that the Violator would take what he wanted, which was essentially his suit, but also with this being done here, this was the Violator's toxic chemical plant, which also served as a headquarters, which is why Simmons wanted to destroy the place altogether. But with just blowing up this facility, he knew that it would take out everyone who worked there, and really just everyone there except for those who were not mortal. And because of that, only the Violator, Godsend, and Simmons were left remaining. And it's here where the Violator had thought with him having Simmons' suit that he had the remainder of his powers, but in what is truly one of my all-time favorite Spawn moments, it's when he walks through the fire of this explosion and he uses the ash from this burnt down facility and he draws on his face.
Oh, dude, that's fucking fire. Come on, dude. Dude, these Spawn comics get me every fucking time, dude. That, like, just how cinematic that moment is. Just to walk through, just pull ash, just... I'm gonna fucking beat your fucking dick in, Violator. Oh, it's so good.
And he draws on his body, like the symbols that would usually be on his symbiote suit, and he picks up the barbed wire and puts it around his arm, and he's sticking bones throughout his forearms, he's putting somebody's skull in his stomach, and more or less making what the suit would be and placing it, like drawing it on his body right now. And lastly, he took like the flag that fell and tied it around his neck like a cape. But he did all of this first to tell the Violator that the suit does not make him Spawn. But also, Simmons did this to let the Violator know that though the Violator thinks that he has the last bit of his power, of which the Violator used to try to raise a bunch of demons to come after Simmons.
I mean, it was cool when he did the other stuff, and the other stuff's still cool, but it loses that cinematic effect because bro's just going on these like little fucking finders keepers, like he's playing I Spy with body parts to try to make the suit. You know, the artists are like, how the fuck are we gonna make him look like? We have this design of what we want him to look like. It looks fucking sick. He's got barbed wire. He's got scales. He's got ash on his face. How are we gonna make this work? Well, yeah, in the explosion, and there's gonna be body parts lying around. We're just gonna have to pick that shit up. Wouldn't that take a while? What is the Violator to do? He's just gonna watch. He's gonna be like Sneeko while his girlfriend's getting plowed. He's just gonna sit in the corner and wait for Spawn to get ready.
But then in return, when Simmons started raising the dead, this just confused the Violator even more because Simmons was still showing to have power even without his suit. But with kind of skimming through this, the way that this points back to Medieval Spawn is because when Simmons had ran up the clock and used the last of his power by pretty much necroplasm nuking everything that was left there, which is something he did with the plans of originally leaving slithers of his suit with other people who would take over after he died, but as it turned out, using the last of his power didn't quite have the ending that he thought it would, or at least what he was told. With on one hand, instead of it killing him, it actually reset his powers, which then at the time caused the clock to gradually count up. But he also shared this power with his replacements like he had planned, but along with this, a number of spawns from the past, which were long gone, had been reborn.
Yes! Yes! The goat! The fucking goat! Yes, it's cool that I get it. We get to see Medieval Spawn again because he looks so fucking cool looking. But the goat is Gunslinger Spawn. Gunslinger Spawn is the goat. I can't wait to dive into more Gunslinger Spawn shit. I have some videos queued up eventually that we will get to, but he's the best of all of them. I'm sorry, he has the best design. I mean, Al Simmons obviously is the best Spawn, but this guy is like the best designed Spawn.
to whom one of which was your medieval spawn, who early on from the time of his rebirth, he had been captured and taken to Vatican City under order of the Pope, who had pretty much just locked him up in the basement. But what they were doing with him here, it was like within this setup to where they had this agency.
By the way, we have an American Pope now, and I think that he can understand English quite well. Probably watches King Jeffy Coates' stream, because I am probably the most holy streamer on the platform. And content creator, I'm just a very godly individual. Well, what are you doing with the spawn body right now, Mr. Pope? I need some answers. These are answers that need to be questions that need answers, my friend. My friend, Mr. American Pope, what is in the basement of the Vatican? You must tell me now.
And that was kind of like S.H.I.E.L.D. on Earth, but they work for heaven. But with them having medieval spawn here, to whom from the time of his rebirth, all he had talked about is about his righteous cause and about his great devotion to this righteous cause. And with him being held here, they had pretty much used that against him. And like with using bright lights, which weaken your traditional hell spawn, they held him here under the Vatican, and they pretty much told him, look, since you have this righteous cause, we're gonna give you the opportunity to prove yourself.
Dude, again, one of the most peak designed spawn. Like the first three, like you look at Gunslinger, you look at regular spawn, and then you look at this one compared to Dark Age, it's not even fucking close. And again, I think Dark Age has a really cool backstory and is a really intriguing character. But get the fuck out! Look at dude, this is dick hardening. This is click quivering, bro.
And do so by carrying out God's work. But really this was them taking the opportunity to use this hellspawn to hunt down the targets which they have set in place, to whom prior to this point, two of which were the Violator and Al Simmons. But after the explosion which took the Violator off the map, this then essentially caused either 12 or 14 others to pop up, who for the most part were people that Simmons had set up to be his replacement, to whom one of which was a longtime troubled kid who Simmons had known by the name of Eddie Frank. But Medieval Spawn, his mission here was pretty much to determine, like, these people who popped up after the Violator disappeared, it was pretty much to determine, like, are they here serving heaven, hell, Spawn, or themselves? And pretty much if the answer was in heaven, then the Vatican was like, done them. But for Simmons, because prior to this point he hasn't met Medieval Spawn, because really for Medieval Spawn, like prior to this point, his history was like in the 1500s he was a knight, and somewhere between the 15 and 1600s he died and became a hell spawn. And I mean, during that time he teamed up with Witchblade for a little bit, to where they went to another realm and stopped like this magical Armageddon, and then Medieval Spawn came back and he was killed by Angela. And so for Simmons, like for meeting this dude for the first time, while he's fighting him, he's not even sure if like dude was trying to protect Eddie and he's just reacting because Simmons showed up. But when Simmons pretty much just gets the clear idea that this dude is here to kill him too, he initially tries to reason with them and let him know that whoever sent him, that he knows what they want, which is pretty clear.
Bro's trying to make it. He's like, thou art against heaven on earth. Thou art against heaven on earth. I shall strike thee down, Alathan Thimmons. Alathan Thimmons, you are the worstest. I am here for Jesus.
Because the Vatican, they want this hellspawn to kill the other hellspawns, and if he gets killed in the process, then it's a win-win. But while they're tussling around, Simmons, he speaks the Medieval Spawn's sword, which was forged in hell, and because at this point with Spawn being king of the dead, but when he does this, Medieval Spawn can no longer pick up his sword, with his sword now having to obey Simmons, and when Simmons goes to pick it up, Medieval Spawn tries to stop him, and he just cuts his head off. Which prior to this point was a pretty big thing, that spawns just don't kill other spawns. But in the case of Al Simmons,
whoever this chick is, dude, this chick right here, she's a baddie too. Girl Spawn's a fucking baddie.
In the first, and it definitely wasn't the last rule that he broke in the book of rules between heaven and hell. But once again, this brought an end to your Medieval Spawn. But aside from this, there's two things that I wanted to mention. Because one, like after your first appearance of Medieval Spawn, where there was this team up between Medieval Spawn and Witchblade, that was like one of your instances to where he had traveled to your Top Cow universe, to where when he did, he ran into Katrina Godliff, who was the current Witchblade at that time, to where they teamed up and saved like this kingdom.
I need to go on a Witchblade deep dive, because they're talking about her a lot in this, and I don't know anything about this character.
But as it turned out, when he first went there, he was calling her by name when it appeared that they first met, which was mainly because the two of them, they had been lovers for a brief moment while he was human not long before he had died and became a hellspawn. But also as a brief mention, aside from your 1996 Medieval Spawn and Witchblade, You also have your 2018 Medieval Spawn in Witchblade, which I didn't want to so much include in this one because this version of Medieval Spawn, Todd McFarlane has more so described this one as like a retelling or a newer version of that character. So if anything, I figure like when we get to that, we do it in a separate video because the ending of that story.
Dude, I want to get into this too, because again, you know your boy likes some Medieval Spawn. I'm gonna be diving into probably more Medieval Spawn in the future. I'm gonna be diving into more Gunslinger Spawn. I need to figure out more about this Witchblade character. I want to check her out more. I mean, check her out because she's be sexy. But and for my female audience, you got tons of some beefy man meat to look at. Don't act like I'm the only one checking out features on the human body. But I'm gonna be diving into all this. I am going to live and die by the lore. I am swimming in a vat of lore.
Story is very different. And so now real quick, I want to give a shout out to all the Patreons. Thank you guys for all your support. You guys are the best. But for everybody watching, there's a lot of wild stuff going on out.
Yeah, by the way, guys, the world's crazy. I appreciate everybody who watches and likes and subscribes and shares and dislikes all my videos. You guys are awesome. I love doing these little lore breakdowns. I know that I am Slopomus Maximus of content creator. I am commentary, douche, Kugalore, King Jiffy. But I do like that you all show up and you enjoy my content for those of you who do. I really do appreciate it.
Out there. So first and foremost, stay safe, call your loved ones, your friends, stay in touch, like digitally. Now that'll do it for this one, guys. Be safe.
No, I thought maybe he had
do it
one.
again in the next.
I saw this picture in the last section of the video, and I thought maybe he had a little more to add. But I think Dope Spill Comics is one of my favorite creators when it comes to Spawn and stuff. I think he just does incredible videos. Go give him some love. Give him a big ol' like a dooski. I'm gonna hit that sub button. Leave that comment. I'm gonna give it just sexy. I'm just gonna write sexy there, dude. That's all I'm gonna do. Comment, boom, helping his algorithm. I know that he probably doesn't need that. He got 41,000. He deserves more views. This is a great video. This is peak entertainment, but I do expect to go through more of his content in the future. Matter of fact, I'll look and find something right now. Let's check out his playlist. Ooh, playlists. A lot of playlists. Jesus, Broby, constantly spitting out at least he categorizes his stuff. I'm so bad at putting my own shit in categories. I just am the worst, bro. I'm like an AIDS goblin when it comes to categorizing stuff because I just don't know the best way to go about it because I do so much shit. I did start up a Spawn playlist, so definitely check that out. They're gonna keep adding videos every so often. Here we go. I've already watched all 3 of his, so that's unfortunate, and his Spawn playlist. So if he does more Spawn videos, I'd love to check it out. But thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you on the next one, and you guys are all fucking giggity schmoodle people.